Hi everyone, Jay Egersdorff here previewing Game Week 13 of the Fantasy Premier League. It's been another long 2-week international break, pretty boring. In fact, I take that back, it's been okay. I thought the International Nations League was pretty exciting in the end, and credit to England for getting through, so that was pretty cool. But let's face it, 2 weeks without FPL is pretty painful for us FPL managers. So we've got a fantastic run now between now and I think it's March when the internationals kick back off again. So we've got the busy Christmas period, and as I said in the video last time round, these next few weeks games come thick and fast. Lots of Premier League action, lots of European and domestic cup action as well. So all really exciting times, and there's going to be loads and loads of rotation, which always adds to the excitement. So usual format for the video, I'm going to have a quick recap of Game Week 12 and let you know how my team did, talk about Game Week 13 and some of my thoughts there around some of the issues that are cropping up. Let's chat about left field options, the FPL donut and captaincy options for Game Week 13. So last time round, for me, 55 points, another green arrow, so that's 6 in a row, so that's really, really good. Up to 163,000 basically, so we're going all right. I think the highlight of the week was my decision to switch Maddison out and put Shaqiri in, and I was rewarded with a goal and a clean sheet for that one, so that felt pretty good. Looks like he may be on a bit of a run of form now, Shaqiri. I understand he played quite well in the international break, so that's looking like a pretty sound move. Game Week 13 then, so there's a few things here that we need to chat about. So we've got Benjamin Mendy and the potential for a replacement being required for him. We've got Anthony Martial and what to do with him. He's probably the form player on the game at the minute. He scored something like, 5 and 6, something like that. Pretty good returns from him. And something coming around the corner, which is a shift in the fixtures for both Arsenal and for Tottenham. So they've both got a couple of tricky game weeks coming up, but then their fixtures really open up, particularly the Spurs fixtures. So lots of questions coming in around Kane. So I'm going to chat about that and what my thoughts are there. So where should we start? Let's start with Benjamin Mendy and what to do if you've got him. So the first thing I found quite interesting was the news was announced that he had to go and have this operation on his knee. And where we're sat now, which is Thursday evening, it's not actually been confirmed how long he's going to be out for. So there's been a lot of excitement on social media about who to switch him out for and what the right players, what the right strategy is. And I actually think until we know for sure how long he's going to be out for, I don't think there's any real need to get too excited and panic there. Last time round he was out for I think 2 or 3 weeks, and I held on to him, and during that time I used my bench, which was Ryan Bennett of Wolves and Aaron Wan-Bissaka of Palace, to fill in for him, and those guys did pretty good. There's a couple of clean sheets flying around during that time. Mendy then got fit, came back in, and he got 21 points in 3 game weeks, so that was really a really good strategy that did pay off, and of course meant I had transfers to use elsewhere and do other stuff with. So the message on that from me is until we know for sure how long he's going to be out for, just not to panic too much, and assess when we've got the news available, which I expect will be sometime on Friday when the Guardiola press conference happens. So let's assume that it isn't good news and he's out for a while. Who do we want to replace him with? So the name that's flying around, I'm seeing a lot on social media, is Laporte, his teammate. So this guy, if I'm right, has played every single match. I think he's played 90 minutes in every single game. So that's pretty good. That's 12 game weeks of consistency. Where I don't like this guy and where it's a bit of a negative is that I think if you got on him early, and I believe his price at the start was 5.5, I think if you had him early, then that represents pretty good value. If, however, you're looking at him now, his price is 6 million, and whilst Man City do keep a lot of clean sheets and there's consistency there, what I don't like is the fact that during that time he's scored once, which is fine, that's okay, but he's only returned 1 bonus point in 12 games. So for 6 million on a defender, and we've talked in previous game weeks about the luxuries of players like Robertson, Alonso, Trippier. I know he's injured. We've got Matt Doherty, we've got Chilwell, we've got Patrick Van Aanholt, we've got Pereira. There's a whole long list of really attacking defenders where actually, because of the way that these teams set up, a clean sheet in a funny way is actually a bonus. If these players get a clean sheet, then that's a bonus, just given the attacking potential and bonus point potential that they have. So for me, it's a bit of a boring move, I think, in a way, and I'm not so sure whether 6 million represents amazing value on the basis that if we jump on an attacking defender at the right time, and we did kind of see this when I did hold on to Mendy. People jumped onto Trippier. I think he returned some pretty decent scores in a short space of time. So if you get a defender with a good fixture, a good run of fixtures, then that could be quite useful. So it's a bit of a boring one. I don't know if anybody remembers long enough, played FPL long enough. Carragher, when he played for Liverpool, he was quite similar price, played pretty much every week, only ever really got 6 points, but was very consistent in that Liverpool team, but did represent a bit of a boring option. I just thought there was something else I was going to say about Laporte, and it's totally gone out my mind. So that's not so good, is it? So, that's Laporte. Oh, I'll tell you what it was. It was the rotation thing. So yes, he's played every week for 90 minutes, but I know Company. I think he's got a knock. He's always got a knock, hasn't he? Otamendi, I believe, has been injured, but he's on his way back. Given the fact that Man City have 12 games in the next 40 days, that's a game every 3.5 days, is Laporte going to play every week? No. Will that impact his Premier League time? We don't know, but there's argument to say there that there is a chance that this guy might be rotated. So if the reason that you're picking him is because he plays every week for Man City, well, you've got to admit that argument's kind of flawed a little bit. So I also think that the excitement for me, and I think the reason that we had this Mendy, Robertson, Alonso triple header that was really, really popular with managers, was because these were players that it was realistic that they could get 10 plus points in a game week. So potentially he had a defence, a three-man defence, that there was a very good chance he could get 30 points in a game week just off those guys alone, because of the fact they're so attacking. So because Mendy's not around, and it's probably fair to say, as much as there are some other good attacking options, there's probably no one that you'd say is really, really essential, I don't think, at the minute. There's probably argument to say taking the money out and putting it elsewhere, so downgrading. The names that have been talked about is Dean at Everton. I've talked about him in some previous videos. Doherty, of course, at Wolves. You've got Chilwell that I've talked about as well. And then further down, you've got people like Schindler, 4.3. Huddersfield have some great home games. The weather's awful up in Huddersfield, we all know that. So there is argument for me to say taking the money out, and if Mendy is out for a while, putting it elsewhere in your team does carry some weight. That brings around quite nicely to the Martial thing. So on Martial, I think the biggest challenge I have with him, there's a couple of challenges. He comes in at quite an awkward price point, so he's up to 7.6 now. I think at the start of this run of form he's probably around sort of 7.2, and his price will go up and up and up, and a large reason for that is he plays for one of the big teams, so lots of FPL players, lots of Man United fans, so there's a good chance that people may let their heart rule their head and pick Martial just because they're Man United fans, not just because he's a great FPL pick. So he kind of comes at that annoying price where he's not quite a bargain, but he's not quite a premium end player. He's in a bit of no man's land. And when we look at the other options, the other players that are available, there's not tons of sideways moves. There's people like Sigurdsson, but of course Richarlison represents probably a better value pick. Who else is in there? Top of my head, you've got guys kind of like Pascal Gross or Mora, people like that, and neither of these players are playing fantastically well, and Gross, of course, has been injured. So the other thing that does put me off Martial a bit, and it's that rotation thing. So if you look at his role, he plays on the wing. Correct me if I'm wrong, United fans, but I think he's quite biased to playing on the left-hand side as opposed to the right. So at best, he's probably got two positions in the team. He might play off either flank. I think we've not seen him playing through the middle so often. So if you look at who he's competing with for replacing the team, Mata, Sanchez, Rashford, I think Lingard can probably play there as well. So inevitably, Man United and Mourinho is going to be able to utilise his squad during this busy run. You know, Man United have still got some work to do for the Champions League, for example. So there is an element of doubt about his game time for me. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to squeeze him into my team, given that there's some other players that I've got my eye on, one of which is our good friend Harry Kane. I said at the top of the video, the Spurs fixtures really go very favourable from game week 15 onwards. I think it looks pretty likely that, unfortunately, Tottenham might miss out in the Champions League, irrespective of if they beat Inter on the next round. I think they could have done with some better results in previous games. So maybe they're going to focus a bit more on the Premier League, depending how that goes. Of course, then, going back to the Mendy bit, if we've got a bit of cash left over and we decide we want to go for Kane, that to me looks like a pretty viable option for the captaincy for a few weeks. He's got some decent home games over Christmas. However, and if I was more technically gifted at this point, there would be the theme tune from Jaws playing, so you just have to play that in your own mind. I've not seen too many people pick this up, so if you have, it's very well spotted. I've spotted it, and that despite his him being the golden boy for England and the captain and Mr. Clean Cut Harry Kane, Naughty Harry is on 3 yellow cards already, and the cut-off point, I believe, is New Year's Eve for the 5 yellow card 1 game ban. So if in the next few weeks in domestic football Kane picks up another yellow, that means we've got the threat of a very expensive player potentially picking up a 1 game ban over that very intense tight December period, which would give us a new headache round the corner. So it's definitely one to watch. I think if by game week 15 he's still on 3, you could probably chance it and ride it out a little bit. But that does give me a cause for concern, because if memory serves me correctly, the next 2 game weeks he's playing Chelsea, he's playing Arsenal, 2 local derbies, heated kind of matches. There's every chance he could get a yellow card in there, and then straight away he's on the tightrope. So yes, Kane does sound like it could be a great option, but you just need to keep your eye on that one. So that's some of the key topics for Game Week 13 covered off. Let's move on to left field options and talk about some of the players there. So as every week, defender, midfielder, attacker. Well done to Alex Pritchard, who scored last week. I tipped him and got some quite bizarre looks from people on social media thinking I'd gone a bit mad picking a Huddersfield attacking player, but well done to you, Alex. So this week I've gone for 3, and one of them I think is a brilliant Mendy replacement that I think is flying under the radar a bit, and it's an old FPL friend that has done very well in previous seasons. We have seen him take penalties in previous seasons, and that's Bournemouth's Charlie Daniels. He is available for the bargain price of 4.2. And it looks like I think he's probably going to take the spot of Smith, who sadly, Adam Smith picked up a bad knee injury. Looks like he's going to be out for a couple of months. So that gives our friend Charlie a chance to get back in the team. Yes, Bournemouth have some pretty ropey fixtures, but I've checked it out, and their fixtures rotate quite nicely with Wolves and Palace. So if you do have those bargain Wolves and Palace defenders on your bench, could that be an option? Cash saving option, quite possibly. So that's Charlie Daniels. Midfield, I've gone for a man who has really grown on me in recent weeks. I've actually talked about him in previous videos, but I just love the fact that this guy looks like he's something out of the 70s. He's got an absolutely brilliant moustache. He doesn't really look like a modern day footballer. I love the fact that I watched him play for Cardiff in game week 12 and he was playing up front in the number 9 role, and I watched part of the Scotland game the other night against Israel and he was playing right back. So this is a guy who just loves playing football and looks just delighted to be in the Premier League and getting a crack at the top flight, and that's Cardiff's Patterson. I think he's still around for about 5.2, playing up front. He's listed as a midfielder. All right, Cardiff don't score loads of goals, but he looks to be the man that's getting them at the minute. So I really like the look of him. And then up front, this guy's gone from FPL Doughnut to now a left field option, because I imagine his ownership has probably gone down. But Fulham, of course, have a new manager. They've got a big game at the weekend. They're playing Southampton. And then over the next few weeks, the fixtures are kind of in and out. They're a bit tricky, but they're sandwiched between some favourable ties. And that's our friend Mitrovic. I think if Fulham are going to get out the mire and they're going to pull forward, then he's got to be the man to do it for them. Ranieri, as we know, quite likes an attacking feel to his play, so he encourages his players to express themselves and get forward. That, I think, will work quite well with Fulham. They've got some nice technical players there, and that should create opportunity for Mitrovic. So he has suddenly gone from being a name at the start of the season that a lot of people wanted to a figure of hatred, and now he's back on the left field watch list. So they're my 3 to watch if you're looking for alternatives. Okay, a couple more things to go through then. We've got the donut of the week, and this was a no-brainer from game week 12 in the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. What was he thinking, Dale Stephens? 1-0 up, away from home, game plan going perfectly, and then he puts in the sort of tackle that you see on a Sunday league that doesn't really have in my view, shouldn't have a place in football. Lets himself down, lets his teammates down, and it's a 3-game ban. So hard lines if there's any of you FPL managers out there, and I bet there's someone somewhere who had Dale Stephens on their bench and he got auto subbed in for a non-playing player for a minus score. So Dale, quite rightly, you are the FPL donut of the week. And then finally, it's a tricky one this week on captains, and I don't have him. I think Salah could be a good captain this week. As I've said in the past, I do like captain in midfield players because they've got the most opportunity to score points. He is playing pretty well. I like the fact that he's playing in this new, assuming Klopp plays this system, that new central forward role. Egypt, interestingly, had, I don't know why this was, had a friendly or an international match postponed last week, so that means he's had a little bit of a rest. He did score, I believe, in the other international game that he played, so showing good form. And I think if you've still got him at this point, it probably does make sense to captain him this week, because there's no standout alternatives when we look at Man City away at West Ham and Chelsea and Hazard away at where are they playing? They're at Spurs, aren't they? Kane, of course, playing Chelsea. I think you've got Richarlison, and maybe you'd look at Martial, but it seems a bit risky to me to captain, these sort of mid-price kind of players. You never know what might happen in those games, so I think Salah seems pretty good. The other one, and most probable, the option I'll take is Aguero, and that's again for the reasons that he's not had an international fixture. He isn't playing internationals anymore, so he's had a couple of weeks off. Man City, as we've talked about, scored loads and loads of goals. He is on good form. He's scoring goals at the moment. Got a goal last time out, so I think for me, on the basis that I don't have Salah, I'll give him a go. So hope that's been enjoyable. It seems like ages since the last time I did the video. So have a great game week. Thank you all for watching. Shout out as ever to everybody on my FPL Masterclass Patreon page. A new tutorial video has gone up in the last week, which talks about in a lot more detail the strategy around finding opportunity in FPL at this part of the season. So it's a 30+ minute tutorial video about how to tackle that. If that's something you're interested in, check it out. And otherwise, I shall be back for Game Week 14. I shall see you then. Have a great game week. Cheers.